welcome to the awesome Algebro. Today, we're going to be going over how to solve for one-step equations. Now, this is one of the most basic of algebra fundamentals, so it's important that we get this lesson down very clearly. To begin, we first must learn that equations follow a certain step in order to solve, and those steps go by the SADMEP method. And SADMEP should look familiar because it is the reverse or the opposite of PEMDAS. Now, in the SADMEP method, it still uses the same acronyms, where S stands for subtraction, A stands for addition, D stands for division, M stands for multiplication, E is for exponents, and P is still for parentheses. So everything still remains the same, but we have to solve things in that order. Fortunately for us, when we do one-step equations, all we have to do is just one step. They're the easiest and most basic of all equations that you'll ever do. All we have to do to solve for one-step equations is you just have to identify what operation that you see and just do the opposite. So when we say operations, we mean you have to identify, are you looking at division, multiplication, subtraction, addition? Out of those four operations, what exactly are you looking at? And just do the opposite to both sides of the equation. Now, we're going to take a look at an example just so we can kind of get our feet wet and see kind of how to do these problems. We'll start with n plus 11 equals 30. All right, first thing we'll do is we'll always make our scales, so that way we always keep our equations balanced. Now, what we want to do is we want to identify, do we see any subtraction, addition, division, or multiplication? We're just looking for those four operations. Do we see any of those four operations in this example? And we should see it right here. We should see plus 11. You can call it plus 11, add 11, positive 11. No matter what you call it, it does mean the same thing. Now that we see plus 11 or positive 11, we need to ask ourselves, what is the opposite of what we see? Well, we see plus 11. The opposite would be subtracting 11. So we subtract 11 from one side. We also subtract 11 from the other side. Now, we have positive 11, minus 11. Those two 11s cancel each other out. So now at this point, we just have to ask ourselves, what do we have left? Now we have n equals 30 minus 11, which should give us n equals 19. Now, we'll look at another example just to kind of get some practice and see if we can do another operation. Now, we'll take a look at 3x equals negative 42. And here we'll do the same thing. We'll start off by making our scales so we can keep the equations balanced. And we need to identify, do we see any subtraction, addition, division, or multiplication? In one-step equations, we just have to identify, what do we see? So we have 3x equals negative 42. And we should see in the problem, we should see right here, we should see multiplication. 3 next to a letter, or any number next to a letter, means multiplication. So 3 times some number equals negative 42. So now that we know that it's multiplication, well, what's the opposite of multiplication? The opposite of multiplication is division. Well, what's the opposite of multiplying by 3? The opposite of multiplying by 3 would be dividing by 3. So we divide this side by 3, we divide the other side by 3, and our 2 3's cancel out. Now we have x equals negative 42 divided by 3, which should give us x equals negative 14. All right, now that we solved those examples, let's go to another set of examples and see if we can solve those equations as well. Now here I kind of have them mixed up so we can kind of get a good sense of what to do, and we'll see that we'll do these just a little bit faster. Okay, we'll start with the first. H plus 8 equals negative 19. Okay, let's make our scales so that way we keep the equation balanced. All right, we need to identify in the problem, what do we see? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And h plus 8 equals negative 19, clearly we see addition. Well, what's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. What's the opposite of adding 8 or plus 8? Opposite of adding 8 would be negative 8. So we put negative 8 on one side, put negative 8 on the other side. Positive 8 and negative 8 cancel each other out. Now we have h equals negative 19 minus 8. Well, if we subtract those out, we should get h equals negative 27. Okay, let's go to the next one. X over negative 5 equals negative 7. Well, let's make our scales. Now, we need to identify what operation do we see. When I look at a fraction, I know a fraction, x over negative 5, which is a fraction. I know a fraction means division. Well, if a fraction means division, that means the opposite operation would have to be multiplication. Well, what is the opposite of dividing by negative 5? The opposite of dividing with negative 5 would be multiplying with negative 5. So I multiply this side by negative 5, I multiply the next side by negative 5. The two negative 5s cancel out. Now I have x equals negative 7 times negative 5. And we know a negative times a negative is a positive, so our answer should be x equals 35. Now, to get to the last one, I put them in reverse order, but you still solve it the same way. We start by making our scales, and we look for, do we see any addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? Clearly, in t minus 27, we see subtraction. Well, the opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of negative 27, or subtract 27, or minus 27, however you call it, the opposite of negative 27 is positive 27. I put positive 27 on one side, positive 27 on the other side. The two 27s cancel out. Now I should have 54 plus 27 equals t, which is 81 equals t. Or, because we normally don't write it like that, you don't put your equations like that as a normal way to write. In standardized terms, you usually put the variable first. So in this case, you would say t equals 81. Okay, I hope this helped with your mathematical journey, and I hope you can challenge yourself to go from one-step equations to two-step equations in the next lessons. Hey friends, thanks for watching the Awesome Algebra. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for the most awesome algebra tips available. And again, thank you for making me a part of your day.